Here's why Stephen Curry breaking the three-point record at MSG was meant to be. It was almost 9 years ago on February 27th of 2013 that Steph dropped 54 in New York, which is known as the game that made him famous. Since that game, Steph's made 7 All-Star appearances, won 2 scoring championships and MVPs, he's joined the 50-40-90 club, made 4 All-NBA first teams, and he's won the Golden State Warriors 3 NBA championships. Let's look at how Steph's revolutionized the NBA since that outing in New York, and why Curry passing Ray Allen for the most three-pointers made ever is something we should all appreciate witnessing. Before continuing, only 12.6% of you watching right now are subscribed, so if you haven't already, please subscribe. Also leave a thumbs up, it takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. The modern-day NBA has revolutionized into a game that's based behind the three-point line. Back in 2010, the Orlando Magic led the NBA in three-pointers attempted per game at 25.5. Fast forward merely 11 seasons later, and the Utah Jazz currently lead the NBA in three-pointers attempted with 42.6. While you could attribute that to the fact that teams just take more and more threes as time progresses, that argument is thinly veiled. From the 03-04 season to 2010-11, the number 1 ranked three-point team's attempts only increased by 2. However, in that same time range from 2010-11 to 2017-18, amidst the Golden State Warriors' climb to superiority behind the Splash Brothers, teams went from taking 25.5 threes per game to making 41.9 threes per game. That 16.4 gap between the two number 1 ranked teams in three-pointers attempted in 2011 and 2018 is more than 8 times the increase from the previous 7-year era. And if you were trying to pinpoint the start of this spacious, bold, and incredibly fun to watch fast-paced three-point era of professional basketball, you could do worse than February the 27th of 2013. In a game that night between the Golden State Warriors and New York Knicks, at the world's most famous arena, the Warriors' 24-year-old point guard at the time, Stephen Curry, hit 11 of 13 shots from beyond the arc en route to a 54-point performance, which held up as a career best for 8 years until he topped that twice in 2021. However, at that time, that game at Madison Square Garden wasn't really different from the half-dozen or so similar outbursts that crop up every season when a gifted player becomes unstoppable for a couple hours. Also, the game didn't end well for the Warriors, as Carmelo dropped 35 and the Knicks won by 4. But to revisit it now, almost 9 years later, is to see something singular, a statement of purpose for a different sport. Doris Burke, who was the analyst for the game that night, spoke about Steph's shocking display at MSG and the context of what the game turned into. She said, "That was the first night going back to his time with Davidson, where I covered him a couple times, where Steph had his own sort of visceral reaction to his performance. When he really started to cook, he started to do a little bit of shimmying and literally physically reacting and feeling his own performance like he knew something special was happening." Still, Doris said there was no assumption that this type of outing would become the norm for a player who'd yet to even make an all-star team. Quote, "Not in a million years did I anticipate he would reach the level he has and sustain it for this long." And Doris wasn't alone with that take. It wasn't merely that Steph had a slight frame, plus a storied history of ankle injuries one after the other. It was more the fact that no superstar in NBA history had ever built his game on the type of shots Curry was making. However, with the benefit of hindsight, what's most outstanding is how easy Steph was making it look on this night. All aspects of what fans now come to expect from Curry was present in that outing. The inside-out dribbles, the astonishingly quick skip-a-frame release of his jumper, and every bit of confidence in the galaxy. The chef was swiftly working off either side of the screen set for him. He made defenders turn circles and run into one another. He was pulling it from about anywhere on the court. In retrospect, on that special night at MSG in 2013, Steph looks less like a kid who was catching fire, but more like someone who was just starting to realize how special their abilities truly are. Of course, Curry's ankles got and stayed healthy, and his jumpers turned into basketball's most dangerously consistent weapon. Steph pulls the trigger less than a quarter second after working off a pin down and catching the ball, or after a flurry of crossovers and stepbacks. Steph uses the danger of his ability from deep range to tilt the opposing team's defensive game plan all over the court, which opens up everything for his teammates. While LeBron James and Kevin Durant have been all-time greats and are debatably the top 2 players of the last couple decades, Stephen Curry's clearly become this era of basketball's most defining and influential player. Warriors coach Steve Kerr said it best, saying, quote, "He's the most impactful offensive player in terms of what he does to the defense maybe ever. Everything we do revolves around Steph," end quote. It seems completely fitting that 3 titles and 2 MVP awards later, in the exact same building where he had his coming out party 9 years ago, Stephen Curry broke Ray Allen's record for the most three-pointers made of all time. Piling up buckets is one thing, shaping basketball's future is another. Doris Burke spoke about Steph's long-term impact on the league, saying, "I think unequivocally he's done 2 things. He has refined what a quality shot in the NBA looks like, and he's spawning a generation of little ballers who want to be just like him," end quote. The reason why we should appreciate witnessing what Steph just accomplished is due to the fact that Steph's record almost definitely won't be broken in our lifetime. In 2014, Steph touched on whether or not he thought it was possible to one day break Allen's record in a now legendary interview.
Can you catch Ray Allen?
I hope so. I mean, that's a test of longevity, consistency. I have a newfound appreciation for exactly what it takes to get to that level.
Health.
I mean, yeah, you got to be healthy. You got to have some great screensavers. You got to have, guys that look for you, and you got to be able to make shots. And I hope to. That's what I work every day to hone in on my skill.
3,000 made threes.
Hopefully, I'm playing long enough to get it done.
3,000 is the benchmark, Steph.
On his record-breaking night, Curry gifted his 2 longest tenured teammates in Andre Iguodala, Klay, and Draymond with engraved Rolexes. Steph couldn't have achieved the record if it wasn't for those 3, and he's well aware of that. Led by Draymond Green with 479 assists on Curry three-pointers, Iggy, Klay, and Dre have been responsible for setting up 26% of Steph's total career triples. Also someone who deserves credit, as Reggie Miller pointed out on the broadcast last night, let's give some love to Seth Curry as well, who's been shooting around with Steph and getting his rebounds his whole life. Seth's often been in the background when it comes to Steph's legacy, but it's unfair to forget about Steph's little bro who's been there with him every step of the way. Meanwhile, for the record holder Ray Allen, who broke Reggie Miller's mark 10 years ago, he was a class act. Considering Allen had his record snapped so soon, and the fact that Curry did it in a ridiculous 511 less games than Allen, Ray was a great guy for showing up and embracing Curry. I've seen a lot of people talking about how different the game is nowadays, which is true, but they're using that to argue that it's less impressive that Steph broke the three-point record. That's a ridiculous take, because the reason why teams are shooting more threes in the first place is because Curry and the Warriors revolutionized the game of basketball. Former Warriors coach Mark Jackson said it himself back in 2014. Steph and Klay is the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. After Curry broke his record, Allen posted on Instagram with the caption, "The torch has been passed, and it's in good hands." So question is, how many threes will Curry end up with if he plays another 5 years? Best answer in the comments section gets next video's shoutout and competes for a chance at the top 3 in Community Speaks, where you'd win free NBA merchandise in the holiday season. Only 10 more days to get your takes in, but the Speaks winner for today is FYI Sin, who says, "My most memorable LeBron moment as a Warriors fan has to be the block in the finals. I was literally crying in front of the TV after that." Gotta be one of the funnier takes we've had so far, for sure. Thanks so much for sharing. You guys are the best for sticking around. Keep watching some of my recent uploads. This was D-Flow. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next video.